One,
Yes.
Gardner Minshew. This was honestly my favorite game of the week. Was Colts Ravens. Really didn't know what to think of this game. I saw flashes from the Colts defense versus the Texans last week, but I wasn't sure what the Texans really were, especially with that offense being as limited as it had shown to be in the first 2 weeks. But that defense is really good. I mean, this is a defense every year that's supposed to be in the top 5, at least talent wise, but I felt like it's always underachieved with its talent. But I feel like Shane Steichen has really come in, set a culture on that team. That team actually has an identity. And then Gardner Minshew was able to come in and say what you want about the guy. The guy has a nice touchdown to interception ratio when he stepped in Jacksonville. The guy's never been terrible. Even the games he lost in Philadelphia, he was still going toe to toe with Dak Prescott. Had 2 bad picks in that game, but it just happens as a professional. But he did a good job being patient, holding the ball, and then that third down completion when it was like 3rd and long, and he just held it, and then boom, completes it to Michael Pittman. I was like, that was a nice throw. He had good pocket presence. Kyle Hamilton definitely got him off the corner a few times, but that Colts defense was really impressive. And then the fact that your starting quarterback goes down, Gardner Minshew just steps up there. He has the Shane Steichen connection because they worked together in Philadelphia, so he brought him in just for some continuity there. It's like, okay, he's a good player. Their offensive line looks good. Zach Moss, hell of a wheel route. Like that touchdown that he threw to Zach Moss, that was a dope throw, catch for a running back. And then he was able to really get them going. And then the Ravens offense started to stumble a little bit. It was like, this is the first kind of time. I don't know if the Ravens just were underestimating the Colts or this was a game where it's just hard to get up for them at home, but it's definitely saw their offense start to show a little bit of crack in the armor, especially the run game wasn't as dynamic.
Yeah, and they've had a couple of injuries with the running back core. But my big takeaway from this is I was already kind of embracing the Colts. I like what I've seen from their defense. I like Shane Steichen as a hire. Gus Bradley's been a good DC for them. But for them, it's like their defense is firing on all cylinders. They got a top 10 defense right now. And their weapons are performing a lot better as well. You get the Michael Pittmans. Looks like he's taking a step.
Yeah.
Alec Pierce making big catches when it matters. And really, it's like Zach Moss stepping in for a situation with this, Jonathan Taylor situation. He stepped in. He played a great game. I think he had 130 rushing yards. He had a couple touchdowns involved. And the, fellow mustache enthusiast, Gardner Minshew, he balled in Jacksonville. He balled in Philly. And now he's balling on the Colts. For me, I look at someone like Gardner Minshew, and then I look at a situation with the Jets, who we'll talk about later. I think they'd be in a better situation if they had Gardner Minshew.
Oh, for sure.
And Gardner Minshew, another guy, I mean, he's not to the same level of Brock Purdy, but similar where he was drafted late. He was on this goofy Jacksonville team with no talent, just this mustache guy in Jacksonville. No one took him seriously. And everywhere he's gone, he's played well. I'm not saying he's a starting quarterback or, a franchise guy, but he's somebody that can step in when there's an injury and rise to the occasion. So Gardner Minshew, get his flowers. He should have an opportunity when the time arises. And for the Ravens, I feel like, I can point to the Colts defense. I think they did a great job covering their elite receivers. Zay Flowers was contained for the most part. They did a good job covering Mark Andrews. But this is a team, their running game is Lamar Jackson right now. They lost J.K. Dobbins. Gus Edwards fell down as well. So, they're relying on the Kenyon Drakes of the world, who's bounced around pretty much every team at this point. I think their offense will be fine, but I was a little worried. Their receivers are a little fragile with Rashad Bateman and Odell. Odell got banged up as well. So I think they'll be fine. This was a great win by the Colts. I can't really take away too much from the Ravens. I think they'll still be good, but good win by the Colts. This is a big win, and I'm hopping on the wagon.
Yeah, especially with the Jags showing some cracks in the armor. The Texans kind of up and down. They have a young team there, so they'll start to evolve over the season, maybe into a better team. That defense looked pretty solid with being able to make some plays. D'Amico Ryans is definitely a good culture hire there. And then the Titans, what team are we going to get? We don't know. Those are two teams that usually play each other tough. So I think with the Colts, they definitely have a bright future. It's just making Anthony Richardson realize you don't need to go 100% that whole game. And then it was kind of reminds me, it's a different sport, but Blake Griffin said he had to learn how to kind of pace himself during the game, where he was trying to go 100 miles per hour, trying to dunk on people, but he really had to figure out his pace and his feel for the game. And I feel like someone who really figured that out early was Jalen Hurts.
Mhm.
especially with learning when to run, when to pass. So just being able to study some of those quarterbacks that know how to pace themselves, that know how to get down and get out of the way. Like, don't look at Josh Allen as like the prototype for a running quarterback because he still has some reckless plays where he's dropping the shoulder into a linebacker. Like, we really don't need you to do that. We need you to develop your pocket presence. We need you to find open receivers. We need you hitting Michael Pittman, and we shouldn't be relying on Anthony Richardson. That's why it's so frustrating that the Colts aren't signing Jonathan Taylor, because I really feel like he is the missing piece on that team outside of maybe trading for someone like a T. Higgins or like a Brandon Ayuk if the 49ers can't afford to pay him.
Yeah, exactly. They could use, another elite receiver. If they had Jonathan Taylor right now, they could potentially be running the table right now. They could be winning. They
Yeah,
might be 3-0 at this point if they had him, because
they could have beat the Jags.
yeah, they could have beaten the Jags. They had a hell of a game against them. Obviously, they beat the Ravens, and I think that's really their missing piece. I like Zach Moss, but he's a lot easier to contain than Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, when he's at the peak of his powers, arguably the best running back in football. He's got the receiving talent. He's got the elusiveness. They could really use, maybe they sign him to a 1-year deal. He moves next year, but they need him. And it's unfortunate that they won't show him, the money that he's looking for.